Welcome to my video podcast series where I talk about all things energy with some very inspiring guests who are experts in their own areas of energy expertise. Today, I welcome back Dana, an expert in many areas of energy. She's an expert in the female cycle and a cycle success catalyst, an international author and publisher, an intuitive empath, a channeler, a healer, and also a very good friend of mine. Let's welcome Dana-Sofie Šlancarová.
Hi, Alison. I'm really so happy to be talking here with you because I always love it. We could talk for hours.
It's wonderful to have you back. And again, I mentioned we have so many really, really interesting conversations, to say the least. I mean, our topics can range from very everyday normal things all the way to channeling different beings and different healing modalities and the food that we eat and how it affects our bodies. So I thought I would start with you because your wealth of knowledge is incredible, and I thought that the viewers here might be interested in some of the topics that we discuss on a normal basis.
Okay.
So my first question for you: how did you get into your energy path or spiritual journey? Did you always know there was more to life than what we can perceive with our five senses?
Well, I want to start with something that I had until I was about 8 or maybe 10. I used to go to some place where I was alone when I was a kid. And I was saying to myself, this is me. This is I. And I could feel it. There was a very strange feeling inside my body. And suddenly, when, puberty came, it disappeared. And later on, when I was like 30, I realized I used to have this feeling because I started to return to it in my meditations, really feeling something that was in me, but all behind me. Yeah. So I believe it was there from birth and I was in it, but as it happens in life, and I believe it's also a sort of purpose of this life to forget, so I forgot that I am all that is. I am God. I am, everything. In fact, we are all one.
So
And
just so that we can get a little bit more context behind that, because it sounds fascinating what you're feeling, but I don't think a lot of people may be able to relate to this, or maybe they can. So when you were around 8, you'd be alone. Did you go to somewhere in nature and sit down
uh,
outside, or?
I remember it was like just in my room or when I was
Okay.
there alone in my parents' place. And I got to that strange point where I could really feel like I am more than what is presented around me. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
it
you were
was a
asking yourself a lot of questions then.
no, I was just going into that beautiful feeling of love. I think it was the feeling
Okay.
of the all-encompassing love that I
Right.
could feel going through my body. I had chills, I'd say.
Even though I guess you were too young to say, I'm going to sit down and meditate, you would
Yes.
just be alone in your room
Yeah.
and perhaps in silence.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes, yes.
wow.
That was probably something like that. I had no words because, I was born in communist regime. And definitely there was no information about anything like meditation or whatever because it was all atheist. We had even some religion, but religion was suppressed at that time. So it wasn't allowed to talk about that. It
Okay.
was
Okay.
maybe the next thing why I decided to suppress it in myself too. Not only the puberty and peer pressure, but also the communist regime pressure. Yeah, and if I go forward in time, when I was about 25, I started to have problems with my back. Yeah, I was sitting a lot, working a lot on the computer already, and my back started aching. And so I decided I could do some yoga because at that time, later on, it was already the Velvet Revolution and we started to have this stuff. So I started to do some yoga and suddenly we did meditations there and it
Oh, wow.
felt so good. And the teacher was like, there is something more. There is energy that runs through your body. And if you breathe like that, you can utilize the energy in this way. And it was called the Tao of Women or something like that. So these were my beginnings, and it's difficult to say because, it was all back and forth like that I was finding something in the area of spirituality, and I was coming back to the matter. Yeah. I was having these, revelations about meditation and how energy runs through my body. But at the same time, I had a terrible menstruation. I was like, I hate it. I do not want to have it. And I think if women are listening, plenty of them can relate to this. And I found out that there are 4 phases of our cycle. And in each of them, we have different qualities, we have different skills, we have different abilities, we have different feelings inside our body based on the hormones. And we also have different ability to connect with God, universe, all that is, or our soul. Yeah. So this was really the game changer for me, both on the material level, on the 3D level, and on the spiritual level, because I started to feel much more in my body, be able to discern what's going on, why this is happening to me. Because before, for me, it was like, oh, probably I have not slept so well. That's why I'm so grumpy. But then I realized I'm so grumpy because it's my premenstrual time of my month, and my hormones just went through a shift, and my estrogen levels are low, and I have low serotonin, which is the hormone of good mood. This is just a phase, and it will improve. It will get better. Yeah. So I think this was the beginning, that I could see what's happening in my body, what's happening in my mind, how I feel things, how I connect with myself and with the universe and with the matter.
So it seems like there are so many things going on. It wasn't just discovering that energy exists and going deeper into the female cycle and understanding that there was more out there in terms of spirituality. Did you find that once you got onto this path and wanting to go deeper, that it was almost like things were drawing you deeper and deeper? Like back to the topic of synchronicities, were things happening that you felt were from a higher power that were leading you to discover more?
Yeah, I have goosebumps now that you are talking about this, because that was just the moment when I started to menstruate again when my son was 4. Yeah. And I tell you why. Because, as I said, I was happy not to have the menstruation. It was terrible. But then I just got it again. And I was on a fork of roads, on paths. And I could say, well, I hate it and I do not want to be with it. And there the universe presented me with another. Because on the same day that I started to menstruate, imagine after 5 years of not having any menstruation, my friend came and she gave me the DVD with the film Moon Inside You about menstruation that I spoke about. And it changed my idea what the cycle is about, that we were misled, that we didn't get the right information. Yeah. And I believe that it was my soul that put me into this position where I could choose, and got me. It was really true synchronicity, because it was on the same day. Imagine, there is no menstruation for 5 years, then I suddenly get it, and she comes on the same day and brings me this DVD that is just on menstruation and how menstruation is powerful.
And because you got your menstruation and it was on your mind, and then it was almost like connecting the dots, telling you, okay, take this further, or something like.
Yes, yes, yes. And what I did, it used to be a problem of mine. Yeah, my menstruation was so painful that I would nearly faint. Yeah, it was incredible when I was standing in front of students. It was really so tiring for me to be there for hours and talk and talk and talk, and I didn't know what to do with it. So it was my problem, but then it became some sort of super ability, or it became my mission in this world.
Okay.
And I published one of Miranda's books in Czech, and it became a whole project, a whole movement. And now there are tens or even hundreds of women and even men around the Czech and Slovak republics that know about us women being cyclic and, changing our moods and changing everything in each of the phases of the month. Yeah. And then I even started writing books about it and lecturing and so on. So I think this was a very huge synchronicity, probably orchestrated by my soul, that this happened
And
so that I
I
noticed.
love this because this is the starting from pain and becoming your passion with purpose. And this kind of makes me want to tell everybody, if you're going through any kind of pain right now, if you're finding things very difficult, then sometimes there are hidden messages that we're not able to see because of the pain we're experiencing. Because this is something that happened to me as well. I'm not going to go through what happened, but I was in so much pain. And at the time, I wouldn't have been able to see any beautiful hidden messages for me. But when I finally was able to get through it, go through the process of forgiving, of grieving, of all of the things that we need to do to transmute these lower frequencies or these lower emotions, then and only then are we able to be lifted to understand that we experienced it for a reason. So now I look at my experience and I thank the universe, I thank my higher soul, I thank whoever that it's happened, because if it wasn't for my experience, however negative that I perceived it, then I wouldn't be here today doing what I'm doing, trying to help people, speaking to people as inspiring as you in different facets of energy so that we can bring this all together to introduce it to the people that don't realize it exists, because it's something that is there even though we can't perceive it with our five senses, but it's here to help us, to guide us, so that we're no longer a victim to our life, but we become empowered to create the life that we want. So I think it's beautiful, and how, you had so many years of this pain, which obviously it's not something I smile at, but now that this was what you were meant to do.
Exactly. And now I can help women because I went through it. I I experienced it all. So when they come and they say, I have painful menstruation, I have terrible PMS, I have very long and heavy menstruation, I know what they are talking about. And
Yeah.
I can be there with my compassion because I really lived through it.
And I think
And
this is important. And some people, I've heard varying views on this, where people say you don't have to feel the pain in order to help somebody or to understand. And although that's somewhat true, you don't have to be enveloped in pain all your life to be able to do something good out of it. But if you've felt it, if you've experienced it, now pain is necessary, suffering is optional, or the length of time that you suffer is optional. Okay. So if you have experienced it, then you have a different level of understanding, a different level of empathy and compassion, where not just your words, but your energies can connect with the other person. So you've learned how to transmute that energy. And therefore, I think you're better equipped to help them to do the same.
yes, exactly. That's the principle of the wounded healer that is
Mm.
so frequently spoken about. And first of all, I was like, well, this is stupid. But then I realized it's powerful when really you go through not all of the pain, just as you said, yeah. And then I realized that when I was working with the women, part of what they shared wasn't my problem, never. But working with them, working with many of them, I could start to help more women because I was able to get the knowledge from what they told me. So really, as you say, it doesn't have to be that you go through all that pain. Yeah. But then anyway, we are all one. So we feel all the pain, and if we want to, we can connect to it, but really we do not have to. I really prefer that we connect to joy, and because what followed after some years, I was building this project. Yeah, we have such stuff like these cyclic magnets that help women and men to understand their cycles, the phases. I wrote the books. They are in Czech, however. So I was working on this and it was great. And then I started to get bored a little bit because I was doing the same stuff for some time. And my soul said, okay, wonderful. So let's give you more. And now that I see it with some, you know, what's the English back how do you say it?
Hindsight.
Hindsight. Yes, yes, yes. That's it. So it was like copy paste. Yeah, I had painful menstruation, and then it became my passion with mission. And what happened to me some like 15, no, maybe 20 years later was that I started to feel even more energies. And I have always had it. I came to a place and I could say the energy here is like 50% of something that is ideal, or 110. This is a wonderful place.
See, this is where I'm in awe of you because I think I'm totally the opposite of you when it comes to this. And see, Dana is very, very sensitive to energies, good energies and bad energies. And you can think of this as a curse or you can think of this as a gift, depending on how you use it. But
Exactly.
for example, going to a large city, she can feel all of the negative thoughts and emotions, all of the joy as well. But sometimes the negative can
It's,
overwhelm
yes,
your
exactly.
system. Whereas with
Mm-hmm.
me, I don't believe that I get anything. So like
Well,
I,
and
I
sometimes I envy you. I have to admit, when we speak, it's like, oh, sometimes
but
that would
I
come
think
in
where it
handy.
comes to you, the difference with you is that your level of sensitivity and your understanding of it is so far beyond what I've ever seen. Like for example, what you were just saying, this is 50% higher, this is 30% less. You can actually measure it. Like during some healing sessions that I've given you, you've said, okay, this has come down by 40%. And you actually come up with a number in terms of how you're feeling, which is incredible in my opinion. So
Well, this come naturally to me, yeah, and I don't know how I do it. And this is so funny because I was always, for example, writing long letters to my friends, and they said to me, "You are a writer," and I said, "Well, no, why?" And they usually replied to my long email that was like 2 pages long. They replied in one sentence or maybe two sentences. And when two of them said it to me at the same time, I realized that really I am a writer and I wrote my first book, right? So this is probably the same with the energy. I'm not realizing it. It comes naturally to me. I come to a place and I say, well, I feel good here. I can even give you a sort of a taste. I can describe the taste of the energy, what it feels like. And I have it with people, I have it with places. So sometimes when I go to shopping mall, it's terrible for me because I read the
yeah.
energies and it's really overwhelming. It started for me to be very, very overwhelming at a certain point of time, like 2 years ago. And I didn't know again what's going on because we all came here to discover it. That's to really enjoy the fun of knowing it, getting to know it. And I was feeling depressed, I was feeling low, I was feeling tired, and I didn't know. I was doing all I could, doing my yoga, doing my cardios, walking, meditating, and even the meditation was
Too
terrible. Like
overwhelming.
I
Yeah.
would go into meditation and I would get up and I would feel more depressed, and I didn't
Right.
know what's going on. So I started to work with certain people, work with you. You helped me a lot with pranic healing. That was incredible. Every time I get it, it just, it helps me so
Just out
much.
of curiosity, do you think your level of sensitivity and your experience from when you were 8 years old has allowed you to open up to the idea of the energy world, of spirituality, and because of your openness, because you experience it every day in your body, so it's more concrete. Do you think that has allowed you to open up more of your gifts? Like, for example, when I say that, you took me through a channeling session. And because your understanding of energy, you don't have those blocks that some people do. Like, oh, like for example, I'm not sensitive. So it took me a while to say, is this real? Am I supposed to feel energy? Like I had to keep doubting and questioning myself. But for you, because it always kind of came naturally, intuitively, that allowed you to open up more. Whereas someone like me, over time, I've been able to only slowly and slowly open up more and more. Your
Oh,
channeling sessions, by the way, are powerful. And so Dana took me through
I
channeling
call it
sessions,
date with intuition. That's the
a date
title
with
of it.
intuition, and she brought me into this meditative state. And to be honest, as much as I understand energy and know energy, I also know myself to a certain extent. And she asked me to come up with some questions, and these questions would be answered through me, through the channeled voice or the being or my higher soul, whatever came through.
Yeah.
And although I knew this was absolutely true, that this is possible and it can happen, there's always a little bit of doubt for me that, oh, but will it happen for me? And I know a lot of people who are watching are kind of like that too. And so
So,
when
so
I asked those
yeah.
questions, I would start answering. And as I was answering, I'd be like, okay, but this is something that I would say anyways. This is, if I kind of go deep, I would kind of say this anyways. But towards as I got deeper and deeper, and my mind was able to shut off to enough of an extent to let the energies come through, I remember saying things that I normally wouldn't say in real life. And then I knew, and for me, I don't know how it happens for you, but for me, when I connect with a higher energy, I start to cry. I start to tear. I get very emotional and I can't contain it. So I started crying throughout the session. And at the end, I was saying these things that I don't believe in my conscious mind. I knew the answers, but it came out. So like I said, your gifts are magical. And I
Oh,
wonder if it's
thank you.
also because you're so open, because
Yes,
you're
yeah,
so
yeah.
sensitive.
I can say that, I'm much better with clients now. I can understand them more deeply. I can see into the causes of their pain or whatever is happening in their lives. It somehow opened more when I started working more with energy. Yeah. So yes, definitely the answer is yes. And I also wanted to say two more things. One is that the session with you was one of the most incredible sessions because you really went so deep. You were trance channeling. And it's funny because you are saying, I'm not as good, but you are. Even though you may not be feeling it in your body, you were
Yeah.
able to get down and you were channeling incredible things. And also the doubt. I have doubts all the time. I
This
just,
is good to hear. This is good to hear for
yeah,
me and to the viewers out there.
exactly. That's why I'm saying it. I just say, to myself, like, okay, I doubt it, but I decide to believe it. Yeah. And then I get more and more like proofs that it is true, that it is happening. For example, now I was traveling, for example, to my parents, and just it was so simple, but this is what gives you the idea that there are the everyday miracles happening in your life. So I was driving, it's a 4 hours drive, and I wanted to go to park for a minute, have a rest for a while, and I was trying to take my left, but there were cars coming and I couldn't go, and I was standing there for like a minute, which looked like an eternity. And suddenly I could go, and I went, but there were no parking places. It was so busy time of the day that there were no parking places. And I was like, oh, what's happening? And suddenly, as I was passing, there was someone coming out. And I realized, look, you are standing at the crossroads because this person wanted to come out of his parking place so that you can come at the perfect time to get and park there, because there were other cars behind me. Yeah. So there was one thing that happened that day. Then I was driving on, got to Brno, and I was to meet with someone. And I was using Waze, and suddenly he was calling me and said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm like 2 minutes from you." And he said, "Well, but you have to go that way, and do not listen to Waze because he gets the wrong direction." Yeah. So it was again perfect timing. So I managed to get to that place without, getting lost. So there were two little things that the universe shown me that it's working with me, it's caring for me,
Yeah.
it's there for me, it's
So
cooperating.
there's,
Yeah. And then during the night, I had a dream that I had visitors coming. And you know, we come from South Moravia, and when we have visitors, you have to give them something, like not only tea, but you have to have a cake or something like that.
yeah.
And I had no cakes in that dream. There were no cakes. Suddenly there was a bell, and someone came and brought me a cake so that I could give it to the visitors. And I realized that this was a perfect message from the universe, that I shall really believe that I'm always taken care of. Whatever I need, I am provided it at the perfect timing, 2 minutes before I get there, when it's just yes.
There's a fine line, and this is kind of the same concept, but depending on the degree of it, it's slightly different. So there's a synchronicity where you get a sign, that when you get that sign, then you become aware of it and you take a certain path, right? So there's help, there's guidance.
Yes.
But I find that there are deeper synchronicities, which I don't even call synchronicity. I don't know what I call it. But when the universe is outright helping you and saying, here you go, here's the answer. And it's not so much a subtle message. So I think that when people start tuning in to the frequency of higher energies, it can start off as a synchronicity, as we call it. And it can start off saying, oh, you have to turn left, but you didn't know you had to turn left and you're going to go straight. And
Yep.
just as you're about to go straight, something catches your attention to make you go, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to turn left. So that little coincidence of you pausing has allowed you not to go the wrong way and to turn the right way. But why I'm saying this is because I've got quite a few of these experiences that I never told anybody because they would think I was crazy, okay? But I'm going to quickly tell you a story about something like mine, and I'm sure you've got plenty of these as well. So I was living in a place, it was a rental, and it had tennis courts outside. So I decided to take myself and my three boys to play a game of tennis. And I brought a tube of balls, of tennis balls. There were 4 balls in the tube. And this was the tube that I won as a prize of most improved tennis player when I went on a tennis retreat. And I'd never used these balls. They were brand new, they were fresh. And so I thought, okay, let's go and play tennis. So we played our tennis. And after we'd finished, I'm like, okay, make sure I get my balls back. Okay. And so we went around the court to grab the balls, but there was one missing. And so I said, okay, boys, go around the court. Now I know that nobody had shot any of the balls out of the court, so it was within the boundaries. And they walked all around the perimeter of the court. No one came up with a ball. So I'm like, oh guys, come on. I only need one more ball. I don't want to lose my ball. This is a special ball to me, which sounds as silly as it is, but I wanted my ball back. And so they went again. I said, check all the cracks, and there was nothing there. So I said, okay, no one hit anything out, but please can you go outside just in the surrounding just to look for it, because it has to be here, right? There's no reason why it's not. So they checked outside, nothing to be seen. And so I was sulking by then, and I decided, okay, I admit defeat. There's no tennis ball. I don't know why, but there's no tennis ball. I'll just bring these 3 home. And just as I turned away to walk back to our house, I heard a noise, and it went clunk, 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 right? So I'm like, wait a minute, what's that? So we turned around, and in the middle of the tennis court, okay, a ball came down. Okay, so this ball, tennis ball, came dropping down right by the net, and it bounced and bounced and bounced until it stopped. And I was just staring at this ball bouncing and stopping and just stopping right by the net. And I got a little bit spooked because I said to the boys, did you see where that came from? Do you see the ball? And they're like, yeah, there's the ball, Mom. You got your ball back. But I said to them, but how did it just fall out of the air and land by the net? They're like, oh, someone must have thrown it over. I said, if someone threw it over, it would have had to go along a trajectory where it came over the fence and down, and it would have landed at one of the sides, right? And normally when someone throws something, they'll say, here's your ball, so that nobody gets hit. And they're like, oh, they probably just, tossed it. I'm like, no, you guys, listen. I know they're very logical as well. How would this have happened? It literally dropped vertically, okay? And it came to a stop by the nets. Now, for anyone who doesn't know me, for anyone who isn't sure about energy, come on. Of course, this is going to be like, there must be an explanation. But I have thought and thought and thought, and there's no explanation in my eye, in terms of what I believe, to have why this would have just come out of the air, even if someone had thrown it up like that. It wouldn't have just landed directly in the middle of the net. And so, still to today, I look up and I say, thank you for giving me my ball back. So, in my opinion, this wasn't necessarily a synchronicity. This was more of a outright, here you go, I'm going to help you because I know you really want your ball back. Or maybe it was to help me to believe that this is true.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say, that this is often to help us to believe that we are here not alone. The universe.
But not in a spooky way, but in a very loving and helpful way.
Yeah. And I love this story. I know you have more. I remember that one with the ice cream, for example, you told me. So this is incredible. But I have a friend who has the same stories. Like she wanted to put in some fuel into her car when she was in States. She's from the Czech Republic, just as I am. And suddenly she had the fuel there. Yeah, the tank was full and she didn't know how it happened. Or she was traveling and the ride was like 4 hours. And in 2 hours she was there because she was able to compress time or whatever, bend time. I don't know. And I would say she's the most rational person I know. And this is happening to her all the time. And she already developed some sort of wonderful therapy around it. Yeah,
and these are things, unless you're in that line of work or something, you don't mention it to other people because there's this fear that people will, think that you're kind of out of your mind.
This is going to be happening more and more because the Earth is rising her vibration. So more and more crazy stuff is happening. And crazy, I mean in good way and bad way as well, because it can be the volcanoes, floods, whatever. But we are the ones who observe it. So if we decide that we do not want to observe the cataclysms, the catastrophes, so we do not have to, and we can change a timeline. We can be in a different timeline where this is not happening. So everyone who's watching, you have the decision to observe the photon, and either it is a wave or it's a particle, and you decide. So you may decide the Earth is raising her vibration in the most peaceful way, and the same is happening to me. Yeah.
And I'm just going to mention, Dana mentioned timelines. We're going to park this one. That's a whole different topic that we can talk about one day. But yeah, I mean, keeping this light-ish, but there's so much out there that happens, and our rational mind tends to dismiss it, tends to say, oh no, that didn't really happen. Like, for example, for your friend, oh, maybe I did get the gas or petrol and I forgot, and yeah, of course, or maybe my partner filled it up. There's always a reason that we can put behind it. But the more this happens, the more you realize, or the more you understand in a deeper level, no, it's not a coincidence. I'm being helped. And that's wonderful.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I love it. And I feel that now my task is to open even more to it. And when I do it, I'm doing it, of course, for myself, but I'm also doing it for the others. Because when I open this in my field, I'm inspiring others. And also, it's like when you throw something into water, so you have the circles. So this message, this is possible, is getting to more and more people will be manifesting all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And later on, it will become the reality for every one of us. Yeah, because if we are moving from 3D to 5D, which is also another topic of its own that we will probably leave for next time. Yeah, this is what will be happening. Yeah, I just want to say that when we shift to 5D, it's more like clean slate and we can do whatever. We may say, universe, I want this to be happening. There is no more karma, there is no more past that defines us. We may say, and I've been working on this with my guides every day because, as I said, now I'm very sensitive to all kinds of energies. It like went, I don't know, 10 times, sometimes 100 times up.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And I used to feel really terrible. So I was really not feeling well, and I started to talk with my guides every morning when I walk Zhovka. And I'm saying, like, I want to feel great today. I want to feel great when I meet people, when I'm sitting by my computer, because the EMFs are a huge thing that impacts our energy field. I can feel it. It's when I walk somewhere, for example, even the mall, it's
Mm.
really like it presses on me. Or even
Oh
sometimes
wow.
my car when I'm
Yeah.
driving and I have my map on and
So all the
and
signals, the
all the
5G, the
signals, it goes into
Wi-Fi,
the car and the
yeah,
car is just like a cage, Faraday cage.
yeah, yeah.
And I can really feel it. I can really feel it. It presses my body. But it's good that now I know. And what I usually do is that I really ask my helpers, guides, to help me even with these energies. I say, clear them. I have my gadgets like this. This helps with the. This is such a little gadget that it really helps with the positive ions that are negative for us. But what I do usually in the morning is that I walk Zhovka, my dog, and I talk out loud with my guides, with my helpers, with the universe, with archangels, and I thank them for what happened the previous day because they want to hear it. They want to hear it. They are great that when you acknowledge what they did for you. Yeah. And I tell them, look, I want to have a lot of energy today because this is happening. This will be happening. And please be with me, help me with it. And it wasn't working at the beginning, or
Okay.
it probably was, but now it's faster as I do it every day. And I really, it's like I have the clean slate, I have the white paper, and I put there, I want to have a lot of energy for this, I'm doing that. And as I do it more and more and more, I start to believe it, and it's happening more and more and more. And my guides and helpers and universe gives it to me even more and more. Yeah. So this is how you can do it, even though you
So
do not feel it.
in a
Yeah.
way, even if you just experience a few synchronicities here and there, talking to your guides, asking your guides is something we can all do.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you have to purchase. It's not something that you have to spend a lot of time doing. And I think part of the key is, like you said, show gratitude and not just ask for, give me this, give me that. You know, it's like a parent and a child. If the child keeps saying, give me, then the parent is reluctant to give it anymore. But if you say, look, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and you really show that gratitude, then the parent is more giving because they know that they understand the importance, the value, and it just makes so much more sense. So even if you don't believe that there are guides or anything, if there's anything you need, just ask for it. See what happens. It doesn't hurt, does it?
Yeah, exactly. And I was driving with my father 2 days ago, and I could feel the EMFs in the car. Yeah, because I was really needing the navigation. And I was like, oh, this is draining me. What can I do? And I said, Archangel Michael, just clean it up. And within 10 minutes, I was feeling much, much better. But what I do also, I help it. I got up when I could. I walked for a little while. I did some stretching. Yeah, and I do something in an aligned action in the matter as well. I do not rely totally on it, on my guides, on their help. I very much appreciate it. It's just great. It helps a lot, but I do my part. Yeah, they do their part and I do my part because if I
I
was just
love,
sitting
I
in the
love
car,
I love,
just
love, love what you just said about the aligned action because it's not about asking, and sitting back and waiting for something to happen. You have to show that you are willing to do the work yourself as well. that you're taking the aligned action, this is perfect because a lot of people think, okay, well, I just need to ask for help and it doesn't work. And then they give up. But it's also to take that aligned and inspired action, you know?
Exactly,
So,
because
no,
the
I'm so glad you
inspiration
said that.
also comes from the guides. Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes I say, just tell me or inspire me what I can do to improve this, yeah, or to get this or whatever, and then I get the nudge to do it. Yeah. And the key is the more you do it, the more of it you get. Yeah, the more miracles show up for you. And this is what I say when we have the date with intuition, that, and you said it, that you were surprised that you already knew all the information. Yeah. So it's not that our guides are going to give us the blueprints for an subatomic, I don't know what you call it, submarine. Yeah, atomic submarine. It is that you will get what you know because you are already so sensitive that you heard it many times before from your guides or from your higher self. So you may expect miracles of the kind that someone will give you a house and a car and something, but this is probably not going to happen because you do not believe it. But definitely, if you start with small miracles, like someone giving you something you need and you've been looking for it for months and you haven't been able to get it, yeah. And then, even someone just smiling at you when you are angry, this is the everyday miracle. And when you show gratitude, then you will get more and more and more, and it may end up with the house and the car. Yeah.
And I guess one of the tricks as well is that it doesn't necessarily come when you ask for it. There's also some kind of divine timing. Things won't necessarily just appear. It appears when you need it to appear in your life.
Exactly.
Which brings me to ask you, I want to understand from you or your point of view, with all of these things happening and the help that we're getting to help us along our way, to guide us along our path, how much do you believe in free will? Or is there destiny that's involved? Because if these things are happening, giving us inspiration, helping us along, even stopping things that we're not supposed to do, right? As an example, how much of it do we actually have a choice for?
This is a question I was asking myself too, and what I believe at the moment, because it may change when I understand it even more, is that we sort of have a plan. Our soul has a plan, and it's like, okay, during my life, I'm going to live through this and through that and through that. Like, let's say three things,
So you've got
huge
some
things.
milestones.
Yes, yes, yes. And this is what is given. Like, you want to go to Mount Everest, right? So that's the point that you are aiming to. But how you get there is the north path, south path, or whichever.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you get there just when you go there one time, or you need three more times to get there because the weather was terrible, whatever. So this is not given, and it depends on you and your free will. And what I heard and what I believe is that the free will is something that is given by God or by the universe, and it's a must that no one dares from the higher realms dares to mess up with it.
Okay.
Even the
Okay.
extraterrestrials, yeah. So
Which
what's
is
the
again another topic for another day because that's a whole different thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is also why we have to ideally speak loud with our guides, because it's our free will to say, we need help, I need help now, help me now. When I say it loud,
Okay.
they know they can help, they can interfere. Yeah.
Now I like how you put it because it's quite simple to understand. Taking it a little bit further and give me your opinion on this. Free will is different for everybody. Okay? And when I say that, let's say, okay, let's use an example of a baby and a grown up, right? And there's no, okay, mind you, a baby's not better than a grown up and a grown up's not better than a
Right.
baby. They're just at different life stages, right? So let's pretend, for argument's sake, the adult has more importance in how they can affect the world, the community, the society because of their knowledge, their ability, their means, and things like that. So their free will, they can still choose what they do when they wake up in the morning, for example.
Yeah.
But the older you get, okay, and I'm not going to talk about a baby and a grown up and an elderly, but let's say souls now, okay? You have young souls who haven't learned all of life's lessons or hasn't experienced as much as an older soul and yet an even older soul. Now, that young soul might have those milestones that you talked about in terms they need to have that experience, they need to do this. So anything in between, they can choose what
Yes.
they do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that older soul that has learned a lot of these life lessons, has experienced a lot of these emotions, and all of the experiences to experience might have a greater role to play. Not that they're better, because that young soul will also grow up to be this older soul, but they might have, instead of 3 milestones, they might have 20 that
Exactly.
need to be
Exactly.
done, which means the space between each milestone is a lot less in terms
Yeah.
of variation. And what if you do deviate from your path, something's going to come down and hit you or inspire
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other side
Exactly.
to make sure you stay on your path. So,
And this is happening also because when you are an older soul, and we usually mean older soul who has lived more lives on Earth, because you might have
yes,
other
yes.
lives on other planets and not in
Again,
body.
another story,
Another story, yes.
another conversation.
Uh, but when you are an older soul, you are more experienced soul, and you want to put in front of you like bigger lessons. Yeah, you do not
Yes,
want to climb a hill of 600 meters, but you really want to go to Mount Everest. Yeah.
yes, absolutely,
So that
absolutely.
is also why some of the older souls have incarnated with some, health problems or really issues, I don't know, of abuse. Yeah.
Mm.
Really have been abused in their childhood a lot because they wanted to get to know what it is like to live through this and then get out of it and get back to the unconditional love. Yeah.
Mm.
So sometimes when I have my clients who have some really difficult issues, I say, well, you probably have chosen it because you love you love challenges. And we also have to look at it from a different point of view than our human life, because this is just like the avatar we have in a game. And the avatars, they have some skills and they have some disadvantages. But
Yeah.
the disadvantages, they bring us to, looking for solutions that no one would go to. And this is what makes us, our souls, and the universe as a whole to expand even more. That is why we are not perfect. In a way, we are not perfect. We are perfect as imperfect we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because if we were so-called OP, overpowered as it is in games, as I know it from my son, so it would be no fun. It would be no fun for us. It would be no fun for anyone. So we really need to.
And again, as you're experiencing something that's not so good, during that, it's really difficult to see beyond that. But at the same time, if our soul has decided to have that experience, the universe doesn't give us things that we can't handle. It doesn't give us things that we are not meant to experience. So chances are, if you're going through something really challenging and difficult, then perhaps you're not a baby soul. Perhaps you have graduated a few levels, and maybe it's time, if again, if you're feeling overwhelmed, to try to find a way to reconnect. If you're not already exploring the different energy modalities, or trying to read books about spirituality or meditate in order to form a greater connection with your higher soul, then maybe that's what's needed to get away from all of the clutter, the clouds, the negative emotions, because again, what happens on the outside is a reflection of your internal state. So if
Yeah.
things are going crazy inside and outside, obviously, then it's time to kind of try to still the mind, still yourself, and let things calm down. And when it can, then you're able to see things for what they really are and to make those decisions and to get those inspirational moments, to get those intuitive downloads, if you may.
I have one story that could end this up nicely.
I love your stories.
Yeah, 3 days ago, I was talking to my client, and she called me and she said, well, I'm feeling terrible because my father is ill and it was just a flu. But you never know, yeah? And she also has some sort of health issues. So she really was very deep into kind of depression and fear. And I said, okay, I'll do some healing on you. And I needed to walk Zhovka again. So I went outside and I could feel how I took it on, because this is what happens to me sometimes. So I could feel her fear, I could feel her helplessness, yeah. And it was draining me. It was as if I had a hole in my aura and energy was just going out. And I was like, it's here again. And then I was like, but what can I do about it? And then I realized that I was given this situation so that I can heal it for myself, that I do not take on and I used to do it a lot for my family. I usually take on their bad energies and they feel better and I feel worse. This is what happens for you if you are an empath, if you know this. Yeah. So I said, okay, this is a huge chance to change it. So I really did. I said, well, universe, my helpers, archangels, just cut it off, all the cords that I took on. And now I see it. I see the fear. I can let it just through my system so it goes down, is grounded, taken on by the earth. Yeah. And within, again, like 10 minutes, I was feeling great. And then I did a healing and she felt better. I just realized that it is not a punishment or whatever, that I haven't done anything wrong to take it on. It came because it's a unique opportunity for me to transmute this situation into something higher and better.
I love that. I love that because so many people, whether you're an energy or not, try to remove pain, try to avoid pain, try to find ways to navigate. But sometimes you need to experience it.
Yes.
Because, like you said, it was a powerful message for you to enable you to overcome certain things within yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoy talking to you and about the many, many different topics we talk about. What we talked about today was the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
You know, there's so many ways that we could have taken each of those 1 minute durations. We could have gone to timelines. We could have gone, you mentioned extraterrestrials. There's so many things that we cannot perceive with what we are given naturally and normally for the norm with our sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Things that go beyond that exist. And once you open up yourself to this, then you're able to experience more and more. So Dana is blessed with so many different gifts of energy. And even though she might specialize in a few things for her offerings, that what she offers for different people, her services, such as channeling, such as healing, such as her feminine cycle, it's all linked to the same energy. So you can't necessarily be a master of energy, but you can choose which avenues that you decide to take in your life. And this comes with the intuitive moments that you get, the synchronicities that you experience, what you are meant to do. So look at your pain, look at your experiences. Why have you had them? Nothing is by chance. And when you look at your experiences and see, how can I fit these puzzle pieces together? And what can I do so that I can serve other people, that I can help other people to also experience what you have done so well in transmuting your pain to something higher, something that now is your passion with purpose.
Okay, so thank you for having me. It was such a fun to be with you. I love our conversation so much because it allows me to even realize more that when I speak it, I get it more. I'm that kind of person. And I love hearing your stories too because they inspire me as well. They are incredible. So I'm looking forward to some balls.
Oh, Well, anyways, I'd like to thank you again for watching. If you're interested in any of the topics that we mentioned, please put a comment down below and maybe it's something that we'll explore in the future. As well, I'm going to put all of Dana's links in the description below. So if you're interested in hearing more about her or any of her services, then feel free to reach out, look on our website. There's so much more to this wonderful woman who can take things on so many different levels. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and we'll see you next time. Take care and stay inspired.